Hello, this channel is mostly about event rental business and helping out event rental companies. But on a day-to-day basis, I deal with weddings, and I wanted to provide a little video telling brides the do's and don'ts of tented weddings. So let's start out with a don't. Don't assume the size tent you need until you talk to a rental company. What happens a lot of times is people go on these wedding calculators, they put in their numbers, and they get a number that says they need like a 40 by 60. Then you call up a company and you say you need this, that. If it's a bad company, they're just gonna go with what you say. If it's a good company, they're gonna write you back and say, hey, that's not gonna fit. Always call a company first, tell them everything you need, and then they will tell you exactly the size tent you need to fit all your stuff. You got to account for a dance floor, a head table or sweetheart table, a buffet area, cocktail tables, gifts, cake table. You got to account for a lot of things. And a lot of times those online calculators do not account for that, and they give you a much smaller tent size than you actually need. We also have rental programs where if we have a question, if it's going to fit, we can make a diagram of your tent and make sure that everything fits. Do not just call up saying you need a certain size tent and that's what you need, because most likely you're going to be wrong. And if the company shows up with that stuff, your wedding is going to suffer because you're not going to have enough space. Do call your rental company as soon as possible. A lot of people tend to think that we just have tents sitting on the shelves just waiting to get rented up to a few weeks before an event. But we're just like an event venue. We're booking weddings 1 year, 2 years in advance, and we don't really have stuff sitting on the shelf. Our goal is to rent stuff out and have it secured and have our schedule set. Don't think that we will have something if you call 3 months before your wedding and you're trying to plan a 200-person wedding. Treat this like any other planning a wedding where you get everything done as soon as possible. Do listen to our suggestions. We're going to ask you a bunch of questions on the phone to find out what size tent you need. We may also come visit your site. And we have been doing this a long time. We know what's up. So do listen to our suggestions. We're going to remind you that, hey, you might need some garbage cans. You might want some cocktail tables. If you have some smokers, you might want some butt depots. We're going to tell you the appropriate lighting that you need for the size tent that you have. If you don't have enough space for one size tent, say you could really use a 40 by 100, but you only have space for a 40 by 80, we may say, hey, that 15-person head table is taking up way too much space. It's killing 20 seats. That could be for guests. If you do a sweetheart table with just you and the groom, or you and your fiance, you're gonna have a lot more room to seat your guests because head tables take up a lot of room. So you go to a sweetheart table, you won't have to delete these other tables that guests would normally be sitting at. Now you can do it in a smaller size tent. So do listen to our suggestions. We do know what we're talking about. Do not ask your rental company for discounts because you are renting so much. The customer tends to think they are renting so much because you really are. You're renting 200 chairs, 20 tables, a tent, lighting, dance floor, dishes. But to us, that is an everyday occurrence. We're not just doing one event a weekend like an event venue. We're doing, me personally, I'm doing like 5. Other companies can be doing 10, 15, 20, 30 weddings a weekend. Yes, it is a lot of stuff. Yes, we do want to make your event as perfect as possible. But if you don't rent the stuff, tomorrow someone's calling for it. So we don't generally give discounts based on the quantity of stuff you have, because like I said, that's just an everyday thing. You may be able to get a cash discount, but don't ask for additional discounts because you're renting so much stuff. Basically, you're going to come off as a customer that we don't really want to work with, and we can decline you and just go with the other customer who's going to be a little easier. Do read the contract entirely. There's important information in there, primarily about the deposit. Most of the time, deposits are non-refundable. For instance, mine is a 25% non-refundable deposit. Whatever reason you have to cancel your event, you're not getting that 25% back because I've reserved that equipment for you and had to have turned down other customers who have called for it if I didn't have more left. Now, if you cancel, I can no longer call those customers back and get them that tent because they have moved on to another rental company. So the 25% deposit is kind of like insurance for me. I'm no longer able to get that stuff out because you canceled, but at least I made some money on it. Also, there's a lot of other things in the contract, like the expectations of the rental company. Like our expectations is you would mow at least the day beforehand. You will have the tent marked so that when we show up, we can get straight to setting up, and just a whole bunch of other things. And every rental company's contract and expectations are going to be a little different. Do read the entire thing. Do get sidewalls for your wedding tent. Most rental companies do not own enough sidewalls to cover every single one of their tents. That's because a lot of parties, like a backyard barbecue, they won't need sides. So it's not cost effective for us to own sides to cover every single tent. And that's pretty much every rental company that I know of. A lot of times customers are waiting until the last second when they see the weather to order sides. The problem with that is so is everyone else. If rain is forecasted, people who had not ordered sides are going to order sides for their small tents. And by the time you call, there may not be any sides available. Sides are like an insurance policy. It's better to have them and not use them than to need them and not be able to get them. Conversely, heaters. If your event is going to be at a time where it might be cold, just get the heater. It's the same thing. If there's a bunch of events going on that weekend and the forecast is cold, a bunch of people are going to be calling for the heaters. And now heaters are a very limited item. They're an expensive item for us to own, so we don't own that many of them. That is a heater. So just have it on there. Same thing, insurance policy. It's better to have it and not use it than to need it and not be able to get it. So get sides and get the heater on there if it's going to be in a colder month. Do not fill your tent entirely with 6-foot rounds. A lot of customers think that because a 6-foot round seats 10 people and a 5-foot round seats 8 people, you can fit more people in the same space. You cannot. The space requirements for each table is different. A 5-foot round requires a 10 by 10 area, and that allows guests to be able to walk through like normal instead of squeezing by. A 6-foot round table requires a 12 by 12 area. So in the same space that you could fit 4 of the 5-foot rounds, seating 32 people, you can only fit 3 6-foot rounds, seating only 30 people. So that's 2 more people in the same space. But as you start putting them in, you're exponentially losing more and more space. 6-foot rounds take up a lot of space, and you're going to require a much, much larger tent in order to seat the same number of people as you would be able to seat with just 5-foot rounds. I know it's counterintuitive, but it's the truth. 6-foot rounds are not good in tents unless you have there's one party of people who is 10 and you don't want to split them up. 6-foot round tables work a lot better in big, wide open banquet halls. 5-foot rounds work a lot better in tents. It maximizes the space. Do let the rental company know any extra information, like if there's stairs or if the location where we're going to park and then set up the tent is a mile away, if there's any obstacles in the way, if we're delivering to a building and there's an elevator, where the loading area at that building should be, if they have a loading dock or a freight elevator or just a person elevator. Basically any information that we need to know, that we should know about setup. Because a lot of times in the contract that you should have read, it says things about like we need to be able to deliver to a convenient location, otherwise we are going to charge you more. I charge more for elevators. I charge more if we have to travel a mile away from where we have to park. I charge more for 4 flights of stairs down to the tennis court. We just charge more because it takes time. So it's better to have that information to us ahead of time so we can tell you the appropriate price instead of us showing up on site and then being like, well, now this is going to take a whole lot more time. We're going to charge X amount. So do take that into consideration. Give the rental company as much information about the site location and delivery and pickup and everything that they should know ahead of time. Not the week of, not the day before, not during delivery. As far in advance as you possibly can. This one's kind of more of a repeat. It's just, do trust us. We do know how to do tented weddings. We do 5 to 30 of them every single weekend. We want your event to be as special as possible. We want you to be in the right size tent. I don't want to show up and give you a tent that's too small and you be mad at me. I want to get you into the appropriate size tent with everything that you need. We do way more events per year than an event venue. We do know our stuff. We do so many weddings and most of them go off without a hitch. So when we tell you something, do trust us, do take it into consideration because we do have the experience. So I hope this helped. I hope this helps your process and I hope your wedding goes off fantastically. Thank you for watching.